It's time for science. So I want you to grab your science paper. Science number 1, our planet. This is the page we're going to do today. It's the Rudiments. We are studying our Planet Earth book. We're going to be studying geography, but Planet Earth deals with all the different types of things in the Earth. Last year you studied space and everything. This year we're studying the actual globe of the Earth. First thing we do, we always go to the origin, the purpose, and the principles. Now, we're studying geography. And so we're going to have 2 kind of science classes. We're going to have one that's just geography class, which is dealing with the planet and the continents and the oceans and rivers and stuff like that. But this one, in this book of geography, we're going to delve in deeper to the fact of volcanoes and oceans and all those kinds of things that we talked about, the particulars of the Earth. Now, let's go to the definition from Webster's 1828. So look on your paper. You have geography paper. Geography is a noun. Now remember, what is a noun? It's a person, place, thing, or idea. Let's say it together. A noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. So it's a noun. It's a description of the earth or terrestrial globe. Terrestrial means land, all right? Particularly of its divisions of its surfaces, natural and artificial. What are the divisions? Let's look at our map here. When you look at the map, what division do you see? Think about that. You see a division. You see a separation. What division do we see with, I'm going to scoot this up a little bit closer. So if I write on my board, what division do we see with that map? We see the division of land and water, don't we? So those are the divisions that we're going to talk about. There's also lakes and rivers, and then there's mountains. You know, the interesting thing is that God made all those. Let's look at the biblical origin. Let's go to Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Where did the earth come from? It came from God. God created it. So right here, I want you to write something about that verse. You could say, God made the earth or in the heavens. You could say, God made the land and the sky. You could say, the land and the sky was created by God. You could say, God created the entire world, the waters and the land. I mean, you can write whatever you want there, but write something about God creating the world. Let's go to Isaiah 45:18. For thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, God himself that formed the earth and made it. God himself formed the earth. What does forming mean? It means he designed it, right? If you have a piece of clay and you're folding it, you're going to design it the way you want it, right? So how cool is it that God made every continent just like he wants it, the oceans just like he wants it, the mountains where he wants them, the lakes and rivers, everything, the peninsulas, the islands, everything. God designed it and formed it, and he established it. That's cool. Now, so right here, you could say God made or designed the earth. That would be a good point. God designed the earth how he wanted. Or God set the earth up as he saw fit. Or anything to that effect. So write your idea there. Now notice it also gives us a biblical purpose, which we're not going to write down. But it says he created it not in vain. It means he didn't make it for no reason. Vain means just you do it for no reason, right? He formed it to be inhabited. God made the earth so that people could live on it. Wouldn't it be silly for God to make the earth and no one could live on it? That's why we don't live on Mars, because if you were in Mars right now, you'd be dead. You can't live on Mars, right? But God made the earth to be inhabited. That's one of the purposes. Now, as we look at this, let's look at one of the biblical purposes. Even the heavens are the Lord's, but the earth he hath given to the children of men. What was one of God's purposes? He made the earth, and who did he give it to? He gave it to us. The earth is for us. We're allowed to use the animals. We're allowed to use the plants. We're allowed to use the trees. We're allowed to use the dirt. We're allowed to use everything he created for us, for our good. How cool is that? So right here, I want you to write down an idea of that. You know, God gave man the earth to use. God gave man the earth to live. God made everything on the earth so that man could use it. You can write a bunch of things in there as well, can't you? Let's look at Genesis. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth. That means fill the earth, have lots of babies, right? And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth and upon every fowl of the air. Fowl is a bird. And all that moveth upon the earth. And all the fish of the sea, into your hand they are delivered. He says, every animal, every fish is for man to be able to use. He says, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. So God said, you can eat it. If you catch a fish, guess what? You can eat it. If you go out and you go hunting, you get a deer, you can eat that deer. It's for you. Even as the green herbs have I given you all things. He says, I've even given you the herbs, the grass, the plants. You know, Miss Sarah, she likes teas, and she gets teas made out of plants. Like there's a chamomile tea, and chamomile is actually a flower. But you take that flower, you dry it out, and you crush it up, and you can put it in hot water, and you can make a chamomile tea. You can do the same thing with mint. You can do the same thing with a bunch of other stuff, right? How many of your parents, do you ever see your mom cooking and she opens up a little thing, she starts sprinkling this spice on there and it's green? Those are plants. God gave those plants to us, those herbs to us to make our food taste better. How many of you would like to eat just bland, boring, yucky food? Not me. I'm glad God gave us those. So right here, you can write, one of the purposes. What's one of the biblical purposes? God gave us animals to eat. God gave us grass or plants to use, right? We could use trees to build houses. I mean, thank God that we have wood. Those come from plants, don't they? Everything God created, he gave to man to be able to use. All right, let's turn over the page. Now we're going to go to biblical principles. Oh, Lord, how manifold mean how many, my watch keeps talking. It says, how manifold, that means many. You did many. How many are your works? In wisdom thou hast made them all. The earth is full of riches. So what do we learn from geography? We learn that God has put stuff in the earth. What are some things that God puts in the earth? Estrellita? What are some things that God puts in the earth? Gold, oil, he puts silver, he puts metal. In order to make metal, they got to dig down, get the ore. They have to bring that up out of the ground. They have to melt it, and then they can make metal. The earth is full of riches. So God has given us riches. So what is one principle we learn? That God has supplied all we need. The earth has what we need to survive. That's pretty cool. Where do we get food? It grows out of the earth, doesn't it? Now let's look at Job 26, verse 7. He stretched out the north over the empty place and hangeth the earth upon nothing. The earth is hung on nothing. It's just suspended. We learned that yesterday. What does that show us? We can learn about God's power, God's consistency, God's order. So right here, what does it teach you about the earth hanging on nothing? It shows you that God is all powerful, that he's protecting and watching over us. So I want you to think about this. From all these things that we read, what will geography teach you about God? So I want you to write one sentence, just one easy sentence, telling me what geography will teach you about God. All right? And then write one verse from the Bible that talks about the earth. So you need to look up a verse that talks about the earth. You cannot use these verses that I wrote here. I want you to open your Bible and find a verse that talks about the earth. You can look in Genesis because there's a lot of verses that talk about the earth in Genesis. Look in Genesis and write that verse right here. So you're going to tell me what geography will teach you about God, and you're going to write one verse that talks about the earth. All right, boys and girls? Next, we're going to go over some introductions to geography as well. It's going to be a very, very exciting lesson. So enjoy this. We'll see you soon.